Prepare to be illuminated.
Hi guys, somebody had an excellent suggestion that I should also talk through the existing legions to try and help newer players in the game understand the cards which they have access to and how to build their decks. So in this video, which is the first of the Let's Learn Horus Heresy Legion series, I'm going to be talking through the cards for the Sons of Horus Legion, which is the first legion that new players start off with. So I'm going to start by talking through the Warlords and then go through the actual cards themselves. So let's start with the default Warlord that everyone gets when they start the game, Garviel Loken. So Garviel Loken is one that a lot of people are really keen to move on to quickly because they kind of get bored with him. But he's actually pretty good. So in most of his stats and abilities he's very strong. Like most Warlords, he's got a normal attack of 2, but his special ability is that for 2 energy he can do 2 damage to anybody. And that's a pretty strong ability. You'll see that some of the other Sons of Horus Warlords who can apply damage directly, they either don't do 2 damage or they can't apply it to anyone. With Loken, as long as a unit is not stealth, you can hit it with your ability for 2 energy. The other great thing about Loken is he has high initiative. So that will really matter later on as you start facing more and more Warlords. Because whichever Warlord has the highest initiative will take the first turn, and that can often set the pace for the rest of the game. The downside to Loken is he only has 30 health, so especially once you start reaching high Terra, where you're often facing decks which are built on Primarchs or Epic Warlords, you're going to find that 30 health makes it difficult to cut it. Having said that, there are people who have proved that Loken can be competitive at the very top of the ladder, but it just takes effort. It's a harder Warlord to play at the top, but until you reach Terra, so until your rating is around 2,500 to 3,000, Loken can still work and can be a threat to almost anybody out there. Alright, so next up is Ezekiel Abaddon. So Abaddon initially looks like a straight up upgrade to Loken. So he's still got the 2 attack, but now he has 35 health, which really helps in some of those later battles. And his ability looks pretty strong as well. 2 energy again, and now he does 3 damage, but he can only do it to enemy troops. Abaddon's ability does not allow him to hurt enemy warlords in any way. You'd have to hit him directly, inflicting 2 damage and taking whatever damage that they do. The biggest problem with Abaddon, which is why you don't see him, is he has the lowest initiative out of all of the Sons of Horus Warlords. He's the only one who's medium, which means that Abaddon will often end up going last. And given how many of the cards in the Sons of Horus deck sort of delete enemy units, they give you an advantage if you're ahead in units on the board, and to really take advantage of that, you've got to start first. So he's great, it's just the others are better. I'm going to skip over Horus for a moment and come to Tariq Torgadon. So he is extremely popular with on Terra. Often people who have Horus will instead prefer to take Tariq Torgadon. He's been nerfed recently, but he's still excellent. He has high initiative, and his ability now, he only does 1 damage. Unlike Abaddon, he can do it to everyone, but if he kills a target, you draw a card. So this really helps you to have multiple options on what you could possibly do, and especially in late game, it makes sure you can keep using all of your energy every turn by always having a card handy. Alright, lastly, Horus Lupercal. So Horus, like all Primarchs, has 40 health. He does 2 damage to start with. His energy ability is you can spend 2 energy to draw a card. Again, just like Tariq Torgadon's ability, that's pretty useful, and with Horus, you're not reliant on being able to kill someone in order to get that. He also has high initiative, which helps him with going first. And like all of the base set Primarchs, Horus gets Whispers of Chaos. So let's go down for a moment and look at Horus's Whisper of Chaos card. Alright, here we are. So, His card starts on energy 20 and it says that Horus is blessed by chaos. -1 cost when you play a chaos card. So once you play 20 chaos cards, then you can bring the cost of this down to something which is playable, because the maximum energy you could ever have is 10. Now the problem is that this looks great, except the chaos cards, although the chaos tactics are pretty cool, the chaos units are in general considered to be the weakest of all of the units. So a lot of people who play Horus will try to build him with a lot of chaos troops to use his amazing Primarch ability, which I'll go on to next. But a lot of other people will just take Horus to get a Warlord with 40 health, who with high initiative, and who can draw a card very easily, and who has access to the excellent Sons of Horus card pool. If you can put up with all the crap chaos units, you turn into War Master Horus. His stats alone make him look really strong. 3 attack, 40 health. And actually, does he heal as well? He does heal. It doesn't say that over here, but Horus heals, I believe, 8 or 10 points when you play your Whispers of Chaos as well. But War Master Horus has an incredible ability. You spend 2 energy and you deal 3 damage to an enemy and you stun them so they can take no actions at all. Obviously that can just stun lock either a threatening unit or the enemy warlord, and can often just practically guarantee you a win. So his War Master ability is, his transformed version is excellent. It's just transforming is hard because you have to play chaos cards in order to do that. Alright, let's go back up to the top and run through the Sons of Horus cards. Their card list is incredible. Like, the units are very good, and their tactics are second to none. Let's start with their units. Well, their cheap unit over here, Avilable Squad. So this costs 1 energy, and his stats look pretty crappy. He attacks 2, but he only has 1 health, but he comes with a drop pod. And so with a drop pod, you start with like a shield of health 2. Somebody has to break through the shield and afterwards hit you with another attack in order to kill you. So even though that it looks like it only has 1 health, they can often stick around to actually damage someone the next turn. So they're not a bad unit to have. Frag Grenade is a really cheap tactic, but it damages everybody. So often there are going to be situations when the enemy has multiple units which are very weak. Maybe they've tried to attack you, they're low on health. You can use a Frag Grenade to quickly finish them off in a very efficient manner because it only has 1 energy. Tarek Torgadon can also get further mileage out of that because he can throw a Frag Grenade if there's an enemy with 2 health out there, and then use his own ability in order to kill that enemy once it has 1 health left, and that'll allow him to draw a card. Quick Fire is a tactic. It's again a very cheap one. It does 2 damage. It's great for finishing off wounded enemies. Dasturk Squad is an epic, that means orange unit. Its stats alone make it pretty decent, but its ability is very strong for an early game card. Every time an enemy plays a unit, it takes 1 damage. So leveraging their high initiative, you'll often take the first turn, which might allow you to put down a Dasturk Squad, and until it's dead, and these things are remarkably tricky to kill on the first turn because they actually have 3 health. Until it's dead, every enemy unit deployed starts on 1 less health. K-Bent Squad is used very often. Again, just because it's a good early game unit, because you can say attack an enemy unit, because many of the units which get played in the first part of the game tend to have around 3 health. So you can attack it with your Warlord or another weak unit, and then finish it off by dropping a K-Bent Squad on the board. Because with its rally ability, when it's placed on the board, it deals 2 damage to a troop, either friendly or enemy. So be careful that you don't accidentally click on one of your own units immediately and then throw a grenade at him. Alright. Lakos Squad is like an upgraded version of Avilable Squad. Now it costs 2 energy, it has 2 health, 3 attack, and drop pod. So this tends to get used as a favorite early game card as well. Resupply is beloved of many Sons of Horus players. It allows you to draw 2 cards to hunt through your deck to find the great cards you need. There's an Imperial Guard card which is similar. It lets you draw 2 cards for 1 energy, but when you play that, the enemy draws a card as well. So Resupply helps you hunt through your deck without helping your enemy guy out by pulling 2 new cards into your hand. Second Wave is one of the cheapest legendary cards in the game. And it's actually, despite that, a really excellent card because of its ability. It creates a copy of all of your troops in play and puts it in your hand. That means that even if you play some legendary troops, which you can normally only have one of in your entire deck, you can play a legendary troop and then copy him with Second Wave and play him again. So, and also, like, if you've played all the troops out of your hand, maybe your hand is small or it's totally empty, but you had Second Wave in there. I guess it wouldn't be totally empty if you had Second Wave, but if you're down to just Second Wave in your hand because you put all your troops on the board, you can play this and refill your hand and get ready to hit the enemy again the next turn. Smoke Grenade is also a pretty useful card. I see it still occasionally on Terra, because stuns can be handy. Stuns will just stop an enemy unit from doing something, and it helps you to draw cards. So again, it helps you to draw through and find those powerful cards that you need. Bane Strike rounds. These are a key part of many Sons of Horus decks. In fact, practically every Sons of Horus deck you'll face on Terra will have Bane Strike rounds, because it lets an enemy unit do a lot more damage. Speaking of which, Grogor Squad is one of the most essential Sons of Horus cards. It costs 3 energy, it does 3 damage, has 3 health. So you can drop it on the board, and because it has fast, it can attack immediately. And if you have enough energy, you can drop it on the board, play Bane Strike rounds on it, and all of a sudden you have a unit doing 7 damage to the enemy. Catguard Squad is sort of average for its ability. Its stats are decent. Costs 3 energy, 3 attack, 3 health. It has Unstoppable, so it can ignore frontline units, so there's no way to defend against them. And it has drop pods, so it tends to survive the first turn often enough. It's just because it's an energy 3 card, it's starting to get played at the beginning of sort of the mid game or end of the early game, and often by then the enemy will have enough units to break the drop pod and kill it as well. So you just need to be careful with that. It is a decent card overall. In a very similar vein is Murdas Squad. Fulfills pretty much the same role. It has less health, but now it gains an extra ability, which is to draw a card. This tends to get used more often as a result than Catguard Squad, on the basis that most of the time if the enemy can break a drop pod and do 3 damage, he can also break a drop pod and do 2 damage. Just when Catguard Squad dies, you get nothing. When Murdas Squad dies, you actually get to draw a card from your deck. Sarpati Squad tends to get used mostly in Horus decks which are trying to trigger his Whisper, because those decks have a lot of Chaos cards in them. Most regular Sons of Horus decks don't, so unless you're playing Horus, I would not recommend including Sarpati Squad, unless you have a lot of Chaos Tactics or other Chaos units in your deck. Stalker rounds, I used to see these a lot more often before reaching Terra. They're useful, they're just usually Bane Strike tends to be preferred, but unlike Bane Strike rounds, which affect only one unit, Stalker rounds will affect all of your troops, and none of your troops will take any damage while doing attacks. So it's a pretty good card to have while you're getting up through Terra, but towards the end game you probably will not have it that much in your deck. Treachery. This is a card which looks good, but the problem is its cost. For 3 energy, there's a lot better cards out there, and so you very, very rarely see this card. So I would not recommend including it in a Sons of Horus deck. There are a lot of other cards for 3 energy you should have instead. Similarly, Abaddon's Chosen. It looks decent because it's cost 4 energy, gives shield to an enemy troop, which lets it resist 1 attack. It's just that for the Mechanicus, get a shield Mechadendrite card, which costs 1 energy and gives a shield as well. This card probably costs too much to really be worth it. Again, there's better things to do with 4 energy than protect a troop and draw a card. Also, just to note, there's a lot of abilities out there these days which say destroy your troop, and shield does not protect against destroy abilities. Chariot of the Gods. Now this is a key part of every single Sons of Horus deck, because it's a fantastic tactic. It does 4 damage, so it can kill many units or weaken them a lot, and you draw a card at the end of that. so it helps you make sure your hand is not empty. This card is really good. Also, a really good card is Chondon Squad. Their stats are incredible for 4 energy, and they have a drop pod. A lot of the times, you're going to play this unit, and you're not going to get to use its incredible attack. You're playing this unit to force the enemy to destroy it before it wrecks them. So it's worth spending 4 energy just to force the enemy to get distracted and focus on finishing this off and making sure it doesn't live through to your next turn. Definitely include this if you have it. Alrighty, Durkle Squad. This one is okay. It doesn't get used that much because it costs 4 energy, but it only has, 3 health. And there's a lot of things out there which can kill a unit with 3 health, so it's not that favored. Landing Zone as well, it tends to run out of favor in Sons of Horus decks because usually there's enough other cards which are drawing cards every turn, and you do not want to end up with a hand which is totally full and you're still pulling cards out of your deck because they then get discarded. So I normally would not recommend including Landing Zone. Metal Storm rounds are fantastic. Give cleave 4. So whenever you attack a unit, any units including Warlords to their left or right will take 4 damage. So you can use this to often damage targets which are protected by front line, or just clear out a large chunk of the enemy board at once. This is a great card. Zetsa Squad is an okay card. The problem, as with all Marks of Chaos, is that it's pretty random. You might get a Mark of Khorne and the unit's excellent, although with 3 health it can get killed easily, or you might get something which is useless for your situation. Often these will not get included in a deck. Horus decks which are aimed at turning him in, triggering his whispering, will sometimes use this because Chaos decks can generate a lot of Marks of Chaos, and that can help really boost these guys and make them much stronger as well. Backheart is an average card. It's a vehicle. There's a lot of around 5 energy. There's a lot of cards which are made for dealing with vehicles, but it's not bad. It's strictly average. It's worth including if you've got nothing better. It's not really any major problems with this card. It just doesn't shine that much. It's basically a high damage, high health unit with a drop pod. Chagrat Squad. I like this squad because it's got a lot of health so it can stick around, and it's for its ability over here, 1 energy, deal 3 damage, is good, it's effective, and you've got flexibility with these guys. You can either place them down, force the enemy to then focus on taking them out, which will take a lot of effort with 5 health, and if they survive, either deal 1 damage and force the enemy to focus on them again, or if you really need to kill something with your 5 damage, you can use that. So they give you a fair bit of flexibility. I like them. Frontal Assault. I've actually never used this, and I have very rarely seen this used against me. Its problem is the energy cost. For 5 energy for a one-off tactic, it feels unless you're really already dominating the board, it's hard to find a good time for this. Kadark Squad. These guys are excellent. They have 4 attack and cleave 4, so they're doing 12 damage in total. 4 to their target, 4 to the enemy to their left, 4 to their right. And with 5 health, they can often stick around long enough to actually do this damage. They are a good card. Outflank. If you have it, put it in your deck. Destroy an enemy troop. There is no way for the enemy to protect themselves against outflank except if they have stealth on that unit, and in which case you wait for it to come out of stealth, and then you can use outflank to destroy it. Best to save this up though, for high value targets. Surgar Targos is the first of the legendary troops for Sons of Horus. He's pretty good. I mean, honestly, his stats alone are nice. 5 energy, he comes with a drop pod, he's got 7 health, so he's tough to kill, and he does 5 damage, so he pushes out a lot of hurt. And if you have a lot of Space Marine units on the board, his ability itself is handy. It gives a Mark of Chaos to all of your Space Marines, including himself. So you can use him to buff people, or even potentially start trying to turn him into a demon. Scrota Squad. This one tends to be used less often. It's a slightly below average card. Just for its cost, its stats and ability are too random. So you don't know what Mark of Chaos you're going to get. So it's not bad to include at first. As you get better cards, you're going to take these guys out and put in better cards. Same for Sons of Horus. Has a nice big chunk of health, but its attack is weak for 6 health. Again, you can use it until you find better units. Okay, coming up to the end of their stuff now. So looking at Vadark squad, these guys are a bit better. It's a situational on how to use them to get their ability though. They're a good follow-up to Sergar Targos, because if he's still alive, you can give him a Mark of Chaos for 2 energy and then drop these guys for 8 energy in total. And their stats become very good when their ability gets triggered, and it's not bad. They're sort of like the earlier Dreadnought, but with 1 more health. They cost 1 more energy, and they come in a drop pod, so they can stick around. Dekars is another Dreadnought. This one tends to be used less often, mostly because he costs a lot, but he only has 6 health. So usually instead of him, and his ability is not that great. There's a lot of cards like this, but the Salamanders will have several cards which will do 2 damage, and they can often act again. I don't like. I haven't had him in any decks for a long time. Alright, Malogars. Now this is one of the iconic cards. It's a legendary infantry, and he is fantastic. If you have him, he goes in your deck. His stats alone are good for 7 energy. Actually, they're great for 7 energy. But his ability is the biggest part. While Malogars is down, your enemy will be afraid to use any tactic cards at all, because every time the enemy uses them, you get a free copy of them. So he is brilliant for that use alone, and then his stats are icing on top. His stats are very strong. Jordan Land Raider, this looks pretty good. Its stats are not bad. If you have plenty of Space Marines in your deck, yeah, you could include it. Maybe if you didn't have what's his name, Malogars, you could use this instead. But you normally don't want to have too many cards with very high energy costs in your deck, because you're not going to get a chance to play them all in a game. Alright, Valok Predator, you see this quite a lot just because of its rally ability. It's low health, but it will always do 3 damage to the enemy Warlord when you play it, which is often useful late game because the enemy will be low on health. And plus, you force the enemy to focus him, because if they don't kill him in 1 turn, that 9 damage he does is wrecking. And then we get on to the last 4 cards. Vengeful Spirit. This is the next iconic Sons of Horus card. This is there in every single good deck because of this. It's a good finisher, basically. Late in the game, your enemy will often be on 8 health, and you can just play this card to kill him instantly. Nothing he can do to protect against that. And well, if you've used it right, you'll never use its draw a card ability. The Punisher. This actually looks initially as though it's really good. Look at those stats: 10 health, 6 attack, and you spend 4 energy, you could do 10 damage to anybody. The problem is, coming out at 9 energy, there's often a lot of units or cards or tactics out there which can neuter it. Either stuns or jams or just outright destroys, and it gets taken out most of the time before it can use its ability. Plus, you probably want to be winning on turn 8 with Vengeful Spirit if you have it. Alright, the final unit is Fellblade Katak. Again, this looks pretty cool on its stats. Its rally ability is a random one, which is not that great. Again, given how much better Vengeful Spirit is, that tends to be used as the highest value Sons of Horus card in many decks, and you don't tend to see many Fellblade Kataks out there. So, this is not one which I recommend including unless you're missing out on high value cards, in which case you could include that there. Alright, and the final card for Sons of Horus is Seduction of Chaos. So this one is often still included in decks, if in case the game goes on for a much longer. Maybe you're not in a position to use a Vengeful Spirit, and the enemy plays a really great unit. You can play Seduction of Chaos and just take control of it. Boom, done. The one watch out is do not use Seduction of Chaos against an enemy Malagurst, because you'll generate a Seduction of Chaos card in your enemy's hand, which he'll use to take Malagurst back, and you end up in a big Malagurst tug of war, and you do not want that. So just watch out for that. Alright, I hope you guys found this useful. Next up, I'm going to be covering the 3 neutral decks in my next couple of videos, and then I'll go on to the other original legions from the game before covering the new legions which came with the expansions later on. Hope you guys found this useful. Don't forget to subscribe, and let me know in your comments if there's any video you want me to focus on making first. Thanks guys, and hope to see you playing Horus Heresy Legions. Bye.